It's time for Refresh the Cache, the Dynamics 365 Portals podcast on the CRM Audio Network, with your hosts, Microsoft MVPs, Nick Dolman, Colin Vermander, and Sean Tabor.
This episode of Refresh the Cache, the Dynamics 365 Portals podcast, is brought to you by Dynamics 365 User Group, the user group for Dynamics 365 and CRM community. It's powered by users for users and specializes in the delivery of member-driven education, networking, and events to help you maximize your current Microsoft Dynamics investment. And if you're not signed up for the D365 User Group Summit October 15th through 18th in Phoenix, Arizona, you still have time. Go to d365ugsummit.com for more information and to register. We thank Dynamics 365 User Group for sponsoring Refresh the Cache, the Dynamics 365 Portal podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Dynamics 365 Portals podcast, Refresh the Cache, as it's commonly known among the interwebs. I'm back with my friend Colin Vermander, and we are live on the show floor at Ignite. This is kind of exciting.
Hi guys, how are we doing? Unfortunately, Nick couldn't be with us today, but he does say hi and very happy to our special guests as well.
Yeah, and somewhere he's saying sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sure. That's
very
sure.
Canadian of him.
Yes, exactly. And we have two special guests. I'm excited about this. We have Dileep Singh, Program Manager from the Portals team, and Smith Codio, Program Manager from the ISV Success. So, lots to talk about. We got a lot of feedback from our friends and listeners on the internet, through Twitter, through the Voice at CRM Audio email address. A lot of questions. Apparently, they were clamoring for a Portals podcast. Who knew?
Very, very successful product so far. So I'm very happy you guys are here to join us. So
we are excited to be here as well.
Yeah, great. So I think the big news here, or the big thing that everybody's talking about is CDS.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of people out there are very, very interested about what's happening with Portals and CDS. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you kind of can direct us or tell us about CDS and Portals?
Yeah, come on. That was going to be like one big secret I wanted to keep until my session. Oh. But yeah, we are working on something. We are thinking about... one of the major problem we have right now is you can't install solutions on CDS instances because portal solutions have dependency on some of the application entities. So we are right now working on creating a new portal type, a new set of solutions which you can install only on CDS or a normal Dynamics 365 instance as well.
A full CDS instance.
A full CDS instance as well, yeah. So that's something, it's in works. We don't know when it's gonna come out, but it's gonna be not long, like pretty much like in next 1 to 3 months. Oh. That's what we are thinking about.
I think that's going to be really exciting for a lot of us partners out there, as well as customers implementing the portals. It's going to allow definitely a lot more opportunities for people to do different scenarios with the portals that aren't necessarily part of the starter template. So that's really, really great to hear. I think that's a lot of people are going to be excited about it for sure. So I think one of the other things that we see with the portal is the use of the front-end editor and the evolution. I know there's going to be some changes in this upcoming release. Maybe you can talk a little bit about those changes and then also maybe the future where you see the front-end editor going as well.
Right, yeah, sure. So if you have seen release notes, so we talk a little bit about it there. Our aim is to completely redo it. We have a front-side editor today. It works for some scenarios. It was done a long, long time back, as long as I can't even remember.
Yeah.
So now we want to redo it, use our modern stack controls like Office Fabric and all the new tech stuff we are working on for that. So we are launching a version in October as a public preview, which will allow you to do some capabilities. It will allow you to drag drop of simple HTML elements like text boxes or images or iframes or tables, modify content snippets. That's going to be our public preview scope. Then we're going to enhance it pretty much every month. So the way we are building it, it's going to be imagine it's like a separate service on its own, which just renders inside. And it's completely visible. So you have a page showing up in middle, and you can do drag drop stuff there, edit labels, and it does autosave, so everything is visible. There is a code editor built into it as well to modify HTML code, so you can actually, if you are smart like Colin, you can go ahead and modify HTML. So that is something we want to keep the ability. But our main focus with this whole thing is making it easy for business users to edit it. So all those devs out there whose program manager comes every day say, hey, I don't like this text, can I change it? Next time you can just tell them, go do it yourself. Just log in and change it. Like, don't ask me to do it again. Modify positions, put images, all of that people with no code experience should be able to do that.
That sometimes is a hard conversation with the boss, but yes, totally get you there. Do you foresee us being able to drag and drop things like entity lists and entity forms in the future as well?
So that's going to be our next wave of it. We will allow you to create web pages, drag and drop entity list. All the properties of entity list and entity form shows up there. So you can toggle the switches, put in values, put in like a Bing map search key if you want. You can do site settings. So finally there will be a definite list of site settings which is available as a drop down and not free from text. So we can actually do validations on it. That's one of the biggest problem we face today, where someone puts in a wrong value of site setting and then everything goes for a toss.
Yeah.
So at least those scenarios will be covered with it. Eventually you'll be able to modify even web templates. So you should be able to get the code editor to do liquid stuff. Plus modify templates in terms of attaching CSS to elements or attaching a web template to another page. All of those kind of scenarios will be possible as well.
So we're seeing, it's really exciting that you have web templates coming to it as well. So I assume that you're also going to be using the same editor that you use behind the scenes in the actual Dynamics interface in terms of the Visual Studio Code.
So it will have the Monaco editor in it, which is what we use in Dynamics today. So right now the editor which is coming just now for HTML is the same thing as well.
Okay.
It's the Monaco editor.
Right.
So it will be available with web templates as well.
That's very exciting and removing the barrier, I think, for a lot of people, because I think we know a lot of CMS editors and people working with the portal aren't always Dynamics users at the same time or Dynamics experts. So this definitely removes a huge barrier to entry, I think, for a lot of people. So that's great to hear as well. I think one of the things we face as partners working with a lot of customers is we often face this dev test prod type of thing. So there's kind of two questions kind of wrapped up here. The portal is very much something that's an add-on. You get one free with now 10 licenses instead of 5 enterprise users. But we can't easily get sandbox instances added.
Right.
Do you kind of foresee the portal add-ons being able to be easily added for dev and test, and maybe not as high a cost or as full powered as kind of a production instance to kind of lower that cost for people and be able to work with the portal product a lot easier?
Yep. So that's okay. So we are working on redoing the whole licensing thing for portal. So we are thinking about doing pre-production instances, which are cheaper. They don't consume as much resources, as well as they put a block on how much you can use them. So pretty much for dev and test, they will be ideal. They will cost you less, and they will only be advertised to do whatever they can do. Right. So no high availability, no failovers, but at least the cost will be manageable for you. We are also thinking about other licensing changes on like how to think about portals in general. Like as we are moving in a CDS world and more consumers will be using portals with CDS, we'll be thinking about like how we can make sure if we say, hey, we're going to charge you on page views, then we actually either do that or just take it away. So we'll actually refine that strategy that whatever we are claiming, we actually put restrictions on it. Or we even just remove it if it doesn't make sense. So if there are feedback on what makes sense for you, just keep it coming, and that will help us shape our strategy there.
Yeah, I think a lot of the customers we work with, don't necessarily track page views, so that's a hard metric for people to understand costs.
Yep.
Plus, they're potentially not in control of the number of page views.
Right.
So if they have a public-facing website, then they could quite high, but everything's potentially cached a lot at the same time as well.
Yep.
So it'd be interesting, some different models around licensing to kind of support all of the different scenarios where portals implemented as part of that. So,
now, how would you handle if you have a customer who... How would you handle it if you have a customer who's using more web service based to their own portal? Is there ever going to be a distinction where they're standing up their own portal, not using our framework, which would encumber some sort of licensing impact from a portal's perspective? Meaning they're extending portal functionality essentially in their own custom way, but leveraging our Dynamics web services to do so.
Okay, so if I understood it right, is it talking about they have their own portal framework, they use Dynamics web services, and in that case our portal doesn't even come into picture, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so in that case, they don't go by portal's pricing model at all. They get charged with whatever Dynamics comes as a model. There will be storage costs involved. There will be CDS licenses involved, depending on what they're doing with Dynamics itself. And there will be no charge because of portal there. Like, you don't have to pay for page views because it's all your thing. You manage the infrastructure. You get paid for whatever you're consuming in Dynamics. So that's where whatever is the pricing model of CDS gets applied to those scenarios. In case of portal, Portal puts a pricing in front of it because we run services which have to be paid for as well. So we put a layer in between where you have to pay for some of the portal resource consumption. Essentially, once Dynamics goes into more like a usage-based model, we will be refining that strategy as well. That if you use portal, what you get in a CDS instance for free versus what you don't. Because at some point of time, else someone will overrun the cost where they'll take one CDS user and put a portal, multiplex it for thousands and thousands of people. Yes, we can run that. It's going to be very, very expensive. So that's where we'll have to figure out what's the right strategy.
I assume that's also, to that point, is why we see the increase from 5 enterprise licenses to 10 enterprise
Correct.
licenses to
Yes.
reflect the usage of those portal components and the compute cost of them and everything.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Because we had customers who were just had one license and they were running a portal which was clocking 500,000 page views. So
Very busy user.
Yeah. So a little bit more, I guess, on the kind of the pipeline or the development pipeline for portals in terms of the ALM strategy. So I think a lot of people struggle with the ALM strategy around portals because a lot of portals information is not just solutions, it's also the data that's related to it. So there's lots of ways to move data from one instance to another. The one that comes with the SDK is the configuration migration. As well, there's also the XRM toolbox add-in for the portal's data mover. Do you have any advice for people in kind of managing their promotion strategy of portals?
So this has always been an interesting topic, and as you rightly said, it's all because it's data. And data movement across Dynamics instances have been an interesting problem. It's not only XRM toolbox or configuration migration. There's also SSIS connectors people use. I've seen people using Scribe to do that. So there are a lot of tools out there. So what we recently did, and it's already out yet, you can go read in documentation as well. We launched some templates for configuration migration tool. We ideally want people to use configuration migration tool as much as possible. That's something which comes with SDK. We built it, we can test it, so we can say that it works. So one of the challenge which people had was getting the right set of template to be used with a configuration migration tool. It requires a schema file which, if you mess that up, you can actually have missing data. And if you're using portals for a long time, portal doesn't really like missing data. So what we did was for each portal type, we actually launched a schema file which you can use directly to move your portal records over using configuration migration tool. Now, what it doesn't solve for you is configuration migration tool cannot filter data. If you had two websites, you were in your dev instance and you were working on one, or you had two web pages, you only wanted to move one, that's something configuration migration tool won't do for you. So those things are plugged by XRM Toolbox or SSIS or any other tooling which you can use. I like XRM Toolbox personally because Stan guy did an awesome job, and that's a shout out for him if he's listening. So if that solves your scenario, then yes, go ahead, use it. We don't officially support it, but at least that solves scenario of filtering the records. Eventually we might build it in configuration migration tool itself, but at least it's not available now.
Yeah.
But what I'll suggest is, if you have like a simple scenario, moving all the data from one instance to another, use our schema templates. Custom entities, make sure you modify the schema to add it to that. Ideally, don't try to extend out-of-box portal entities, because at some point of time we might change the structure and you might not be able to keep up with it. That can cause problems. But use the schema files to move data around, and that should work. Yeah. And that's supported as well. So you can call Microsoft support and yell if that didn't work.
Until they extend the schema file, I guess, with their own custom stuff as well.
If you modified the schema file, you can still call support. We are just going to say no at that point of time.
A little bit more difficult to support every permutation out there as part of that. So definitely understand that. So that's really good to hear. And I think everybody kind of does a mix and match as to what works best for them. I know we do a lot of scripting ourselves with the configuration migration tool and the solution packager. So, but we'd have to, those one-off scenarios where you move data, the XRM Toolbox definitely makes a lot of sense. So yes, we're very happy that tool is in that. So that definitely a big shout out to Tan Guy as part of that for sure. One of the other questions that we often get, or I often get, and me and Nick try to address is, Liquid is this amazing, awesome, powerful language, but it's really just for presentation. Do you ever see there being an extension of Liquid or some other programming method or scripting method within there that's going to allow us to do kind of the full CRUD operations within the portal?
Yeah, so that's one of the core pillar for us, which we will be doing in next 6 months to 1 year. This is part of our next year strategy, that we want to give extension, officially supported extension methods. So one of the things there is a JavaScript SDK kind of a thing, where you can do CRUD operations. So kind of it doesn't replace this Liquid. Liquid will still be there because it's more of a templating engine, which we always want to keep around because it helps you server-side rendering data pretty well. But we will have a JavaScript CRUD SDK, which will allow you to create, update, read, as well as delete operations. Eventually, we are also thinking to extend it to call actions and workflows. They're a bit harder because entity permissions doesn't really get evaluated if you're using multiple workflows, so it becomes a mess. But we are trying to figure out how to make it usable. And once it is there, we will try to allow it for everyone as well.
That's really exciting. I think that might kind of take away from my next question, though, if you're going to add that kind of extensibility to the portal. So one of the big things for a lot of bigger ISVs that are really customizing the portal is that lack of customization, or as an previous ADX Studio ISV, that ability to actually access the back-end code, like the actual ASP.NET, the master portal itself. Is there any plan beyond doing the JavaScript APIs or the extension methods there to provide a little bit more access, or working with the portal so that you can do your own secure server-side code?
So not modifying the code. And there's a reason for that. If we allow people to modify ASP.NET code, we can't run it as a SaaS service. Supportability becomes messy. The way we run our service, we also use Azure to host it, and if we allow people to do custom code, we have to make sure it runs in a secure sandbox environment, which is totally isolated, doesn't affect anyone else, which takes away a lot of the benefits of scaling which we have today. So we don't want to go in there. But what we really want to do is bring like an extensibility pattern. So you can call web services. We give you hooks. You call external web services. So if I think about the ways you want to get data from external system, I want to provide a way you can call external web services from within portal and get data and render it the way you want to. Maybe custom liquid tags. Like, I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas around there. Tell me which one you like. It can be custom liquid tags which calls external services. It can be...
Sorry, we're getting a little bit of background noise from our other meeting room behind the scenes. All right, so we'll keep going though.
Yeah.
So sorry, I think.
Yeah. So we are thinking about ways on how you call external services. First part of that is something we are working on how you do it client side, and then we'll eventually come with a server side method as well, where we give you points like how CRM does. Like hooks where you can call plugins. Similar way we give you hooks where you can call external web services and get data back. So that's something we are thinking about as our Uber extensibility story.
Okay. So I think probably the biggest challenge around there is authentication.
Yeah.
And so do you have any plans around that type of area, or is it still kind of something that we're working out at this point?
It's still being worked out. We have some thoughts. We are playing around with it right now, seeing if they work well and they are secure enough. Then we are going to start releasing them as well.
All right. Well, that sounds like a really exciting story that's probably going to address a lot of the problems I know my team has and a lot of the other partners out there implementing portals has as part of all that. So that's really quite something. Let's go back to Liquid for a sec. One of the things I think we all struggle with is Liquid is this templating language, but you don't have a really good way to debug it and find out what's actually happening. Do you have any thoughts or plans as to ideas of how developers can easily do that? Any extensions that you might think about doing in the future as part of that?
So this, as of today, this is what I always suggest to anyone. First and foremost, enable diagnostic logging. We build it to solve debugging scenarios where anything which happens in your portal, you get logs for it. It goes in a blob storage. You can actually use any of the log aggregator like App Insights or Log Analytics or OMS or Splunk to actually eat those logs from blob and make it searchable. Write alerts on it. Like, this is something which you have to do in a hosted service. And that's where we went with that. So all the Liquid errors goes in there as well. One of the problems I see today with that is you will get a Liquid error, but it's harder to figure out where it came from. So that's something we are thinking about improving. Like maybe providing you debug like a tag which you can add and write custom logs to it. So you get those back in your diagnostic logging and you can see which place, till what place my code worked. That's how we debug as well, so I think that will be helpful. So that's one idea we are floating around. Another will be like a similar kind of approach where you can get more meaningful messages, like the places where we know that error has occurred. We can, like, if those are known scenarios, we provide more meaningful messages and maybe like a template, name and file numbers in logs as well. Those are things we are improving as well going forward. Last will be, we are doing a tooling called self-service diagnostics, which is part of our like a fall release wave. It's not coming in October, going to come a bit later, but aim of that is we know a bunch of common scenarios where people do mistakes, which affects performance, which are where people are using deprecated features, where we want people to move off of certain version of solutions or something like that. Yeah. So we are actually doing a one-click tooling. You click on it, we give you all the suggestions looking at whatever configuration and customization you have done there. So eventually we will start even telling you template, like we'll go through your template, try to figure out, hey, these are the 5 things you have done in your template, which might not be the best thing to do. So kind of like solution checker. We are going to extend it in that sense. That will help some people quickly figuring out issues. And then if not, then obviously Microsoft support will always be there to help.
Right. Hopefully it removes the issue that you might have of a lot of people calling in for support for a lot of known issues or standard type of issues as well.
Right, and it's not even an issue for us that you call us. Like, it's an issue that it takes time for us to respond.
Right.
Even with like super fast service, even if it takes 24 hours, you are losing those 24 hours. So that's where we want to make it more self-service, so that you don't have to call Microsoft support for every simple question.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and definitely will help enable people just to use the portal, even without the intelligence necessarily of all the functions of the portal or how it works. So that's really great. So maybe we'll bring Smith in here a little bit. Smith, I know you work with the ISV team, kind of helping ISVs do a lot of successful solutions and helping them kind of enable their solutions on the Dynamics platform. I know you're working on a lot of industry accelerators these days. How do you feel about portals as part of those industry accelerators? Do you see room for that type of thing within there?
Most definitely. Thank you, Colin. As part of the industry accelerator program that we have, we actually focus on the entire Dynamics ecosystem. So Portal will be definitely a candidate that, as we're moving up the stack, that we want to include and be part of that. As a matter of fact, one of the requirements that we have as part of building any accelerator, we need to have a component or an app that touches every layer in the stack. So Portal is definitely on the radar for that.
Yeah. The external audience is definitely huge. I mean, it's why Microsoft ended up getting ADX Studio as part of this, was enabling that external audience to participate in. So that's really great to hear, and hopefully some of those accelerators in the near future, and lots more of them, will have that portal there.
Most definitely. So one of the things that we're doing, we're working with partners such as KPMG / Adoxo to help us kind of scope and also build and go to market together in building those accelerators. So obviously, given the background that you guys have on Portal, so we're definitely looking forward to partner with you guys to figure out the best scenarios that can help the community.
Yeah, that's great, and hopefully a lot more templates that therefore Dileep doesn't have to manage. And
yeah, please. I don't want to manage templates.
That is actually one of the value prop of the accelerator program. It's actually to give the community or the partners like a 40 or 60% baseline, so they can accelerate development, right, and go to market and reduce costs.
Yeah, well, that's very good to hear, and it'll make it a lot more accessible for a lot more industries at the same time as well.
Most definitely.
Yeah, and that allows Dileep to focus on the platform and build us awesome features as part of that. So yeah,
that is the idea. Thank you.
Cool. Maybe one last question. I guess you've talked a lot about what's coming. Is there anything else that you maybe want to let us know that's going to be on the roadmap, might be revealed at your session that you're going to be holding, or anything interesting that you can tell us out there?
Yeah, so you're killing me there. It's like all my session is already done right now. So I'm just going to play this recording tomorrow, so in case you want to know. So there are a bunch of features which are pretty exciting. We are finally doing SharePoint, which is the whole integration with SharePoint as the storage for your files uploaded from Portal. We are doing some amazing work with Power BI. We are doing both Power BI for organization as well as Power BI embed. So that's something I'm pretty excited about. There's a nice small feature to restrict your portals from certain IP addresses only. So if you are a government customer and you only want people to use it from within your own network, just put in those IP addresses. We accept both IPv4 and IPv6, and then portal is only accessible from those. So those features are like something we're going to talk more about those in sessions, but so I'm not going to reveal everything here. There's one thing which we are also working on. It's not something we're going to be talking about soon, but one of the core priorities is also intelligence, where we want to bring in more AI, bots, cognitive services scenarios. So if you would have seen the recent AI for customer service announcement, so one of the things we are thinking about is how to get those bots easily on Portal. Like you can do it today, but it's like, go here, get this thing, go there, paste this thing. We want to make it simple for someone to set up. And also play more in cognitive services space. Like maybe use spell checker for external customers, use like a offensive language cognitive API, content moderator cognitive APIs. Those are pretty interesting, which we are exploring as well. Do something with search where we tell you if you had a spelling mistake, so we can show did you mean kind of a thing.
Right.
That's something content moderator API does as well. So those are the things we are looking at. Don't know when they'll be done, but that's definitely a big pillar for us because we want Portal to be smarter than at least Smith. And Smith is super smart, so I'm telling you, like, it's very hard to do it. So that's something we are going to be trying and achieving really hard. Holo Microsoft is way deep into intelligence platform, so we don't want to be left behind with Portals.
With the AI for customer service, for example, it gives you the ability to, as a business user, to automate the bot creation process. So do you foresee a point where you're able to extend that to the portal as well? And how would you manage it from a, let's say I'm a manager and I want a bot on a certain issue. How do you manage that between having a general bot on the portal for chat, for example, as opposed to a bot for this specific kind of trend that I'm trying to analyze?
Yeah, so those are the areas we are exploring on what's the best way of doing it. Like, eventually you create a bot with AI for customer service, and then there's a location you place that bot in. So that's where we want to come and be a location where you can place it either on whole portal, specific web pages, based on specific context. Like, just throwing it out, I don't know if it will be there or not, but you have a certain security role and you see a different bot than someone else. So those kind of things we want to think about. Those are the options we want to explore. One natural extension will also be that Portal enables knowledge base and community forums as well. So maybe they help making the bot solve questions as well. Like, knowledge base is already bot looks at. Community forums is another source of knowledge where we want bot to go and explore that as solutions. So those kind of scenarios we are looking at right now.
So to add to that, on the bot topic, so the work that we're doing on the AI for customer service, so we're actually working closely with the Microsoft bot framework team to optimize and basically build to support some of the dynamic scenarios. So we want to work across the entire stack.
Yeah, that'd be good. So I'm hearing a lot that Portal's development is really going full steam. Like, you guys are doing a lot of things. So this is really exciting. And I think, I've been following Portals ever since I joined ADX Studio, and it's probably almost 7 years now. So this is great to see the continued evolution and the continued build out of Portals with so many cool things and all the technology that we have access today. So I think I'm almost out of questions, Sean. I don't know if you got any more.
Yeah, I this has been great, and I think I now understand, because I said in episode 1 I'm not a Portals expert, but now I understand why we got the feedback that we did on episode 1, because there's so much that I never even realized was happening with Portals, which is great. And now that we have our podcast, we have lots of content. We have lots of stuff to talk about for a long time.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that, and I'm excited that we were able to have you guys on. This was really cool. And I was just telling someone the other day, 5 years ago, the interaction with the product team was dramatically different than it is today. I mean, you still talk to them, especially if you're an MVP, but now the transparency, the openness, the involvement you guys have with us is amazing. Being able to do stuff like this on a podcast is fantastic, and I personally, I really appreciate you guys doing it.
Yep.
I'm pretty excited with whatever we are doing with the whole platform and Portals in general, so I'm hoping it helps everyone, and more people are there on Portals, so I get more and more sleepless nights, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, it's been great having you guys, so thank you very much, and definitely look forward to having you guys on again sometime soon. So,
thank you.
And we'll see you guys next time when we refresh the cache.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. I'm here with none other than David Yark. And
See, I thought you forgot my name already.
I kind of, when I look at you, I kind of, mesmerized with all the knowledge that coming out of you. So we're here at Ignite 2018. How many people here?
It's like 30,000, they say.
They said 30,000. It's Ignite plus Inspire.
Envision.
Envision. So there's lots and
I'm
lots
just
of
trying
people
to not be trampled by all the people.
fighting for beer or soft
Well,
drink.
the problem with beer is it doesn't open till 5 p.m.
Yes. Anyway, I hope we won't have the same problem when we run masterclass.
Toronto and Colorado.
So Toronto is coming up. It's 4th and 5th of October.
Yep.
And Colorado the week after that on 10th and 11th of October. So if you haven't registered yet, then
Discount codes.
we've
got two of them.
Wait a minute. So if you haven't registered yet, the easiest way to get is to go crmtipoftheday.com/masterclass, and then you'll find the separate links for Toronto and Colorado to register. So if you city slicker, go ahead and pick Toronto. If you're more into Rocky Mountains and what do you have? Bears?
Deers, bears.
Yeah.
And Dynamics and Power Platform.
We've got lots of news to talk about.
Well, the October release is happening, so we've got all kinds of new stuff.
Yes, we will get our hands on some of the new stuff. We'll walk you through the new stuff. Anything exciting that's going to happen in October that we're definitely going to talk about?
Well, a lot of the solution packaging is, I think, really interesting and going to change a lot of things. But there's really a whole bunch of stuff we're going to be talking about.
Okay, so check out the agenda, register, and we do have a couple special codes to celebrate Ignite. We have 2 codes per city. So Ignite Toronto and
Ignite Colorado.
So here you go, and you get 10% off straight off the bat. So by all means, come to crmtipoftheday.com/masterclass, pick the city of your choice and register, and I'll see you guys there.
See you there.